The market has come down. There's the first arrow. We've already dropped a couple of points since it first started to move down. I'd like to have seen an arrow a bit earlier. Set up 10, 10, 5. We've reached the high of our morning and come down several points. Here's a bit of a pullback. Look for the next red arrow for a 10-5, set up 10. Do have a point of resistance at 77.25. Again, nice 10 ergs, 5 ergs. Looking for a setup 10, 10, 5. Red arrow. Next red arrow. Very nice B bias has gone into red. Still looking for that red arrow for setup 10, 10, 5. We had that gap open on the morning down, and we moved up very nicely to try to close the gap. Came close to it. And came right back down, and market's starting to move up. We may have to wait for these ones and volumes and ticks to turn before we consider the setup 10, 10, 5. As we've moved up, the A bias is weakened actually here.
In terms of that last move up, it was just coming in on the tail end of that into a scalp, but it had already moved up a point or so by the time we saw that signal, and then the ones in the 144 were just ahead of the spiking coming in. In fact, it's now closed the gap.
I have a good question here, Darren. We now have the 144 chart up here that we're watching with arrows as well, and wondering if opposite arrows on 144 chart count for pullbacks too. And I would say that's something to watch for. I would suggest yes. Again, it's not something we've watched and tracked a lot. We added the 144 chart because some days we have much lower volume. We have setups come in, and just wondering if we might get earlier arrows on the 144 chart than the 317.
And is the primary purpose of the 144 is potentially the earlier arrow, not necessarily the pullback. It's always more conservative to look for the bigger pullback, which you would generally see on the 317 chart. Obviously, the market moves in the same amount of movement, but you may get an earlier red arrow, if the red arrow is the pullback arrow, in 144 than on the 317. And as you say, it is something to look for. The primary purpose of introducing the 144 is for potentially the earlier entry arrow, whether it's white or red. We have a 1CD. The F is not there in terms of scalp potential. We see in the course of this move up, we see the 3s turning, and we see the 5 sort of following in behind that. So just when you were talking about almost closing that gap. My view of things, and I was going to say, we may be starting to see a stair-step pattern upward with a higher low there at the 77.75, which we just bounced off, versus the low of the morning at 76.50, and now ticking a little bit higher than that 82.50 previous high, only by a tick. But let's see if we can start to see maybe a stair-step pattern develop upward here.
And of course, on this move up, we've lost our 5 erg. It's gone flat, so no longer have a 10.5 down, and A bias is pretty much flattened for setup 10. And it looks like we're going to be moving towards the high of yesterday. It's interesting yesterday, Darren, with the Fed announcement, no increase in rates. The market moved up 5 or 6 points and dropped over 20 points, and then rebounded right back up. So,
not holding that F bias at all in this last little bit of a move up. We did have a couple of white arrows on the 144 for the 1CD, but no F, just a continued thickness in that E. We've seen that before with the continued thickness or prolonged thickness in the E and even the F, how the market just tends to rise based on that, but not having angles and just recognizing the likelihood or the reality that at some point there is going to be a retracement, just wanting to wait for that. The E bias had been angled down sharply, completely changed here now. Even that top 10 minute has come up 45 degrees. We may see a scalp downward here develop as the ones begin to turn. At the moment, the volume, the tick, coming down rather quickly. If it holds this level, begins to circle up again. That may be the extent of our pullback in this little consolidation zone. 10:08, we have 45 seconds until the 3s replot, a minute until the 5 and the 10s replot, a minute and 30 seconds now. Have a volume E, D, F, not really angled down to the 45 degrees that we would want to see it. And starting to see a bit of a spike again in that E, nothing really to match with that. And as I say, if that continues to spike upward, we would expect to see continued pressure upward, but we want to see the setups align with that. Threes have come in sharper now on that 3-minute replot. C bias is softened. B bias certainly bigger than 45 degrees at any rate, Greg. I think the spike looks like it is to 60 degrees. Less than a 10-point range. Of course, we are looking at a 3-tick target with a 1-tick lock-in as it moves through on the 3B. Ideally, we would like to see more of a pullback, however, and that B bias is softening from 60 degrees. We have the volume, we have tick, we have E and D. Let's see if that F is angling down. If we do see a red arrow on the 144 or the tick, that would be a scalp. Lost that B bias at the 10-10 replot. Nothing. Well, that's C bias, 45 degrees, maybe spiking a bit again. It looks like it is coming back up toward, flashing in and out of, like, say, 50, 55 degrees. There it is, angling towards 60. So if we see a white arrow on the top side, and we have that 3C, 144 or 317 chart. Need to see it in the next few ticks. There was an arrow. Again, a 3-tick target. We have a low, as I say, of 76.50. We need to get to 86.50 for 10-point range. 84 as that entry. Actually, that arrow originally came in at 84.50, but there was a lot of bouncing around. I managed to get 84. And starting to lose a little bit of that angle on the C as our ones and volumes and ticks, particularly the volumes and the ticks that had been angling up, start to angle down a little bit here. And lost our C bias, just got out at 2 ticks down. Nothing to transition to. We may see a scalp downward instead. Actually, I would almost expect that once we saw the volumes and the ticks almost turn up there. In fact, they did, and then angled down again. I would expect another attempt upward again. We may or may not have anything on the base 3s. Certainly that C bias has gone against us. Nothing on that sell arrow, just the ones and the ticks down, F, but nothing else in support of that.
Keep your eye on the 1DEF, even close to setup 10. We need a little more angle on that top 10 erg. A bias has a little bit of angle.
E backed off, D softened a bit, as has the F.
83, 83.25, there's a point of resistance going down.
You see our 5 minutes starting to both turn green here. So we may have another surge up here that matches with the turn in the 5 minutes and another attempted turn in the volume and the ticks. It may have to wait through the 1 minute cycle for that, but 1DE, again, the F is not there. Looking for next red arrow here with the F angled in place there, 1DEKF. Started to move down through that 83 level already. There's an arrow. Came in at 82.50 on the 317 price chart. Top 10 starting to tick down again to 45 degrees beyond it. Starting to come into a set of 10 perspective as well.
Still nice 1 ergs.
Yeah, just our volumes and our ticks, as I suggested, turning up again here. Let's see if that impact is minimal.
E and F have stayed in the red.
There's that E spiking down a little bit further. Very nice to see. Tapped on the 1 tick. Perhaps see those 3s maybe turning down again. I just filled that one tick. Again, there was a little bit of a sideways motion. Can be looking at that as a setup 10. Would actually like to see more of a pullback in that consolidation. Of course, it's starting to move down here. Wanted to see another arrow maybe in around the 82.25 level, so we're coming close to the point where we need to see a bit more of a pullback. So we see a scalp. We do have 1B, the F, backing off a little bit. Well, we do see a red arrow, set of 10, and all that we have, we've got permission, as the 3 minutes are not both green against this direction. In fact, we see potentially that top 3 minute maybe turning down. See our 1 minutes coming close to the end of their cycle here potentially.
We're at the tick trend line, 144 trend line as well.
I have another pullback here again, less than a 10-point range. Target, well, you can't target 3 ticks with a set of 10. You can target 1 point on it. If it comes in with a red arrow, looks like it's not going to move through the 1 point. We'll look to take 3 ticks.
Next point of resistance is 80.75. Smaller stopping spot on the way up.
Looking for a red arrow. Perhaps first off in the 144 this time as opposed to the 317. Tapping again on this 81.25 level. We did have a white arrow in the 144. There was a question before about pullback arrows in the 144 versus the 317. That would be an example there. Certainly we saw the consolidation. We see that pullback arrow in the 144 already. It's moved down almost a full point from that break without seeing an arrow in either chart. And it's getting pretty much scragged to the point where we need to see another pullback here. 81.25 would have been the ideal spot to see that arrow. So 5B as well as a set of 10.
If 5 is flat, 10B.
Sorry, 10B as well as a set of 10. 3s have turned down as well and that moved down. Let's see if we can see another pullback here. See our 1 starting to turn, which might have an impact upward here. Volumes again trying to angle up as well as the ticks. Three C, 3B, 10B, all of those are there, set of 10 as well. I think we're going to see a scalp upward here first of all. See the EK, the volume, the tick. The F's not there. Those 1s turn in behind it, though we could see something. Nonetheless, we are looking for the next red arrow on a base 3, base 10 trade as well as the set of 10.
Another move down here. Still waiting for those arrows to come in. We haven't seen any red arrows in the last few minutes.
bottom 3 minutes starting to turn. We have a point of resistance here in and around, well, 78, 75, and then down at 77, 75. Another white arrow. Still looking for a red arrow here. Another little bit of a pullback. Those couple of arrows in the 144. Challenge is that we've already moved down 2 to 3 points since we were looking for this and coming close to that next point of resistance.
We have a question here. Since we're under 10-point range, don't the setups require 60-degree bias? Yes, in all cases except for the setup 10. For a setup 10, we just need 45-degree angle on the ergs and some angle on the A bias. There's a red arrow.
There's a red arrow.
10B, setup 10.
And I'm going to, based on our less than 10-point range, I'm targeting the 3 ticks on the 10B and the 1 point on the setup 10. We have moved down here, obviously quite a distance in our drop from that level. We do have 77, 75 as the bigger point of resistance here that we're almost up against. And so that may also bode, if it doesn't fill the 1 point, taking the 3 ticks. If it moves through the 78 and doesn't fill at the 77, 75. We have our 1 minute starting to turn, which was something that I made as an observation. Still have thick E bias, but those ones, if they do turn up, may have a little bit of a pullback effect here. Still have the D angle down.
Pulled back to the support level, the tick support line. Shorter term ones, volumes EKF coming up. That's a pullback. 80 to 50 was a shorter support level.
The RB, I just got taken out there at the 2 points on that. 5B as the B starts to soften a bit regardless.
10B.
10B, thank you.
bigger support level, 81.25. Have pulled back 2.5 points from our low. Typically pullbacks are anywhere, normally the average pullback's 1.5. We see anywhere from a point to 3 points. Of course, we see 81.25 as a support level. Could bounce off there. Still holding our setup 10. B bias is ticking back down again. It had weakened on the pull up. More aggressive move on the setup 10. If there was another red arrow to come in, given we do have matching color in the 3 ergs, would be to add more contracts, improve your break even. Normally we do that outside of a 10-point range. We're very close. I think we're around 9 points or so. 8 3/4, 9 points. Just talking about overall strategy.
8 points, actually.
Is it 8 points? Okay. Mm-hmm. So maybe a little less inclined to do that right now.
You see that B bias come back again. Could have another 10B opportunity.
Here we are, we're coming right back down. There's been no arrows to consider a possible double.
If we go through here, I'm just going to move this down, but if it opens up at the 77.50, there's an arrow for the 10B again.
It's already moved down.
It's already moved down, wasn't able to do it.
A couple of points.
And it's moving down. I'm going to lock in 1 tick on the setup 10, hover over the 1 point. I just took the 1 point on the setup 10 there.
We are at a point of resistance. This is a place we bounced earlier this morning. We moved through it by a couple of ticks. Of course, the low of the morning is 76.75.
We can see another pullback here. B buy just softened. I was going to say we would have a 10B again, but we do not. Do the setup 10 though, still. That A bias has actually come a little bit thicker at the 1030 mark.
Shorter term though, we do have our E bias coming up sharp, even an EK. We'll see if that E bias actually K backed off, see if E actually comes up to the green or not.
We have a couple of white arrows in our 144 chart, and just seeing that potentially as, well, we do know we have a pullback, at least in degree of movement in our 317. You see the arrows indicating that in the 144. Again, our 5s and our 3s in our position to begin to turn up, and we may see, as you say, Greg, a bounce off of this level, maybe even the low of the morning, the 76.50. That may coincide with the 5s and the 3s turning. EK spiking upward. Top 1 not really there yet. D, EK. At F, still a little bit flat. And lost that E angle down again.
That was,
we see a red arrow.
2-point pullback off our bottom.
If we see a red arrow, that would be a set of 10 again. Not a 10A, though the angle is around 45 degrees, maybe even a little bit more. Seeing the tick turn and the volumes holding us at this level. See what happens with those 5s. They may add a little bit of flavor here, but if we do see a red arrow, there's a red arrow. We're going to set up 10. Threes just replotted at 1033 downward. They were actually starting to turn up. C bias also angled down. Nice to see. Holding in this consolidation range though. Let's see if it can move down. Just a moment, holding a point off of entry here. We'll need to see the smaller charts come down again here. Smaller ergodics. Market's trying to make the determination of moving through that 77.25 level to the low of the morning of 76.50. There's a good chance that it will do that, even if it is going to bounce off of that level and move up. Again, may coincide with the 5s and the 3s turning. This level is also the 77.50 level, which is, you can see on the 3-minute, 5-minute chart, that point of bounce just to the left of where we are now. At the moment, the C bias still is angled down. Still have angle down in the E and the F. Possible that the 1s could turn down. Of course, our volumes and our ticks are oscillating here at the moment. 15 seconds for the 5 minutes to plot a new candlestick. Interesting, one of our 5s went green. The B bias angled down. And we still have our setup 10, but having a pressure up with the volumes and the ticks turning here. The E and the F going into red, jumped up there. 79.25 still is that point of support. And that E bias angling down. Move through that 79.25 level. Still don't have a change in our 10A. Let's see if this can still come down once the smaller charts turn. We had the surge in the volume and the tick.
if we can push through the low of the morning. We had a big drop yesterday. Be interesting if the market will want to consider even going partway down there, 72, even 70 area. Longer term, we still do have our setup 10. We will have that view as long as our 10 ergs are angled down. Coming up to the 3-minute trend line, which could be a bounce spot.
Maybe seen a softening in the ticks and the volumes.
Even the 5-minute trend line as well.
Turn in the volumes, maybe starting. Ticks. Ones are at the top. They've tried before to turn red. Went back to green. Let's see if there is a concerted effort here. Downward. Ended up having upwards of a 2.5 point pullback. There's a nice drop with an arrow. B is not 60 degrees. A and B are both 45 degrees. Let's see if this can move us down here through that level. I may try again here, Greg, to just even have, I know it's a little bit stretching the rules, just set and forget at the 1 point or 3 ticks. If that's what is your comfort level, I'm going to look to see if I can lock in that. We did bounce again up to 77.25, so we may not have that opportunity. Let's just watch for it though. Need to see those ones turn down. Our ticks are starting to angle up again very quickly. Got 20 seconds until our 10s and 5s replot. Let's see if there's a change in our 10 minutes.
Here's another push down again. Need to break through the 77.25. Nice red bias across the board.
Starting to come in, yeah.
Well, A is just on the edge of red, but everything's much deeper.
5 seconds.
Deeper
Smaller
A.
setup 10.
B bias became deeper, although not 60 degrees.
See our ones maybe starting to turn down. Smaller charts have red biases. Again, 77.25, not moving through yet. And even look for 3-point target, but going to be very, very quick to lock in, even a tick, if it does move through. There, 3 minutes starting to turn. This may be that bigger turn in the 3s and the 5s that cause us to bounce up here. Keep an eye on that A bias if we start to soften any. Again, those 1 minutes tried to go red and went back to green. Biases D, E, and F started to angle up again.
Quick push up, and now we're pushing right back down again. See what happens here. Market's trying to, well, essentially we're in a consolidation zone near the bottom. It's trying to break out. See the sharp threes coming up and the fives have turned. We still have a setup 10. A is starting to weaken a bit. We are taking another run here towards the bottom. Let's see if we can get all the way down to the 77.25.
Ones did turn. Let's see if the smaller biases can come back into red. And as you mentioned, those threes sharp. Slight weakening again on the A bias. Sharp 10-minute ergs though. And flattening A bias here. Still have strong ergodics, but everything is now shifting toward the upside. We have an 80-75 point of resistance. Let's see if it will bounce off of that. If it start to move through that, then we will have really no choice but to exit our setup 10 and begin to look along those threes now that are developing upward or have developed upward. Still strong 10-minute ergs, still have that 80-75 point of support. Still looking for these smaller charts to make an attempt downward, at least in a concerted effort. We haven't seen this here for a good 10 minutes, waiting for that to transpire.
See the volumes turning right now. Mid time the 5 and 3s are sharp upwards. We did have that push up.
See the ticks starting to turn. Maybe those ones now are going to concerted effort to turn.
One volume ticks are turning. D is down, angled down nicely. We need to see it come into red, as well as the E and the F biases. Show this is just more than a pullback on the way up. E bias going into red as well as the F. That's nice to see.
And the D.
And the D.
Still holding this tick trend line though. Still have strong 10-minute ergodics. Need to see a real concerted effort of that E going into red.
We did have the red K attack cross.
We're still holding this trend line though. So that momentum is not yet kicked in downward. Volume again looking like it's wanting to turn upward. E into red. Let's see if this can move through the trend line here now, which is now at 78, 75, 79. Moved through by a couple of ticks, came right back to it. Coming back to our break even here now. Gain some more angle on the A bias. Let's see, we had a couple of stair steps up. Bounced off that 80.75. Let's see if we can move through. Again, same scenario with the 76.50. If we can move through this 77.25 level here.
You mean 76.25?
Thank you.
Did break that 77.25. We're tapped on the 76.25.
Yeah, not enough to lock in that point. I'll lock in a tick and look to, and just going to take the point here if I can. I took the point there at 76.50.
It is a hard resistance.
Gave it an opportunity for it to move through. It may actually do it. In fact, I think it may. It did. But bounced there a little bit. Locked in the tick, but it was bouncing so close to that 1 point level. I have a 9-point range now. I did move down basically another point after where we did get out. Let's look for a pullback. We don't have a setup 10 at the moment because both 3 minutes are green and that A bias is not 60 degrees. We may see a scalp, however. So we had 3 attempts, each with a stair step upward to another point of bigger support, in this case around the 80.75. And then finally those smaller charts did all come together in a concerted effort downward through that harder resistance at 77.25. We are in and around the low of the morning of 76.50. We did move down a point, but have come back to that. Did have a pullback there. Still have the setup 10. Well, we don't actually. Sorry, I keep saying that, but we have our 3 minutes both against us. Unless there's a scalp downward at the moment, we don't see that. Unless one of those 3 minutes go red. Very well could, and that may give us a setup 10. Still 9-point range, so not yet a 10-point range. 30 seconds for 3 minutes to plot another candlestick. Replot, didn't see a change in the 3 minutes, both green. And A bias not yet 60 degrees to allow for a setup 10A and a setup 10 with the strength of the A, though the A is probably around 40 degrees or so, Greg. Still love our volumes and our ticks up and our ones potentially turning biases down, though, or red at least. Go ahead.
Yeah, just interesting, as you say, the weakening of the 5 and the 3. We may get another push back down, but we need to have those ones and volumes. Well, the volumes and ticks, which are near the top, you can see them turn and have the ones back off and their turn.
See the ones now starting to turn a little bit of flicker flatter on that bottom 10-minute ergodic and the A bias strengthening, showing a little bit in the 5-minute ergodic and the 3. And so I think we are moving back up here a little bit to a certain extent at any rate. And the closer we are now in our 10 minutes to the end of their cycle, potentially, the more possible it is for those to turn and underlap the 5s and the 3s going upward. This is, if you look back earlier yesterday, this is a point of turnaround where it came up and went down again, where we are right now, just above the right border of the ladder overlaid on the 10-minute screen. So this could be a potential bounce point. We do have one volume tick F if there is a scalp arrow, and we did see one in the thing. If I can get the 77.25 level, which was where that arrow did come in, actually did come down and put me in at that. Let's see if we can, and just fill the one tick there on that for the scalp. Actually, our 3s now, that bottom 3 has just come in stronger.
Yeah, even a 3C.
Yeah, it just came in stronger. Didn't see that at the time, or else I would have moved my target to the 3 ticks. But at any rate, that scalp did produce a tick of gain, and that was on the basis of having had that arrow in the 144 just within a candlestick of that setup coming in stronger, that scalp setup coming in stronger, being able to get in at that same level that the candlestick producer, the arrow, was shown on the candlestick on the 144. Let's see if there is a pullback, and having a base 3 now. C, 1s, even D, all angling up. We may see a little bit of a pullback come in here when the volumes and ticks turn.
We've got that D spiking, 3D, C weakened, C is coming back in again. You did pull back 3 ticks, didn't have any red arrows for pullbacks, could still consider scalps though. 3D coming in strong. See if that D can cross over into green.
Went sideways here a little bit. Could start to consider this as a pullback. 2 minutes until our 10s, 5s, and 3s show a new plotting a new candlestick. Seeing the ticks turn, even the volumes. Lost the D, slight C bias, so still a 3-1 with the C bias. Let's see.
The volumes and ticks turning. You see the red K coming up, the green K coming down. Let's see how much this does move down. And of course losing the D.
So more clear pullback. We also see potential scalp coming in downward with the tick, the E, the F, and the D. It's already moved down well over a point here, not even seeing a signal in the 144 or the 317. So we look at that as a pullback for the 3-1 with the C bias agreeable. Back up again on the next white arrow. $144 or 317 tick chart. Lost the C bias but recovered the D bias. Interesting how that worked. Still have the one volume, sorry, the tick volume EF downward. So I'll almost look at that as a pullback if there's a red arrow for a scalp downward. There was a red arrow. And my ladder did not allow for an entry there. Failed to send twice. Tried to get in there, Greg.
I got in at 76.
Okay, so if we can track that.
And I just got filled.
Okay. Well, I will take that order out then, and we'll track with yours. So it actually did populate it there, but long after it went down. So track that then. Starting to see a base 3 upward 3D. I know after that last arrow it's already moved up about 1.25 points from that 76.50 level.
Or 75.50.
I know, but from the level there in the 144 of 76.50, a break out of that thing that's already moved up.
Right, okay.
1.25 points before we got that arrow. That turnaround on that jump was very quick. The D only came in as it started to move up through that level. And in fact, the 3-minute was red until that spike started to happen, and then they both came back. We have 5 3s that are both nice now, and that 10-minute starting to curve. So long term, we may see a turn in the 10 minutes. We still have only a 9-point range, so we're still looking at 60-degree angles. We'll need to see a pullback here for a 5-3 if we do see that. We could also see a scalp upward. 3D coming back in again with the volumes turning and the F spiking. D backed off. Might be near the end of the cycle in the 3 minutes here. It is close to the top of its range. Can still spike up further. Fives just starting their cycle.
May come down with this EK coming in downwards.
Yep. There's going to be some oscillation here before it, if it is going to push up before it does do that. E angle down, F angle down, D angle down. That's about all that there is here at the moment. And that 5 oscillating slightly. The bottom one from 45 degrees to 45 degrees and even beyond. See the volume starting to turn. We did have a pullback, so if we have this 5-3 with the C and a slight B bias agreeable, if we do have that white arrow on a push upward, then that would be an opportunity. At the moment it looks like our ones are turning down, and we might see a bit of a scalp move down again here. D, F, E, and again a press on the top side may give us the 5-3 upwards. Still have the threes that are angled. Oh, it is starting to. There's an arrow that did just come in at 77.50 on our 317 price chart this time. See our volumes turning and our ticks turning. Let's see if this will press up. 78.75 is the last push up. 77.25 or 78.25, the one just before that. 11.05, we still have the C bias, our B bias plotted downward slightly. Volume still angled up, tick showing an E bias spiking a bit, coming up to that level. It does move through the 78.25. It certainly should move to the 78.75. You can look at this as a 2-tick target or the 3-tick.
Nothing wrong with taking 2 ticks, given we're near that point of resistance, and the weakening 3. C just weakened as well.
Yeah, it did. So I'm just going to take the 2 ticks.
It's a low-hanging fruit.
We lost the B and the C, so don't have any of those agreeable. So just get the 2 ticks at 78.
Now it's pressing with that E.
Yeah.
Volume E has come in.
So there would have filled the 3 ticks, even touched on a point.
We didn't have that information at the time that we took the 2 ticks.
No.
Being at that bounce spot, it could have easily bounced back.
In fact, we still have B and C angled slightly against this, so although the 3-minute did come in a bit stronger. See the 10-minute flattening more toward the green side. Again, if we have conflicted 10s, we still will be able to look at both base 3s and base 5s. Did add the base 3 component to that mix as well in a conflicted 10 environment.
continuing to push up 78, 75 is bigger bounce spot, point of resistance.
Unless we see a scalp. We actually have the ones and the D downward here, E almost coming in downward. We may see a bounce off of this with a potential scalp. Again, our 5-3 still nicely angled up, 3 minutes, once again near the top of their range. We were there before, and you can see the scale changed a little bit. We were in this sort of same level in the market, or the market's moved up a little bit further. There's that 3 minute now turning red. No longer have anything. We may see a base 5 or a scalp. Again, E, F, both angled up. Volumes, that's about it though. I think this is going to move through the 78, 75. Just trying here so long. I think it's going to do it. We do have, we only had 3 things though. Volume, E, K. That's about all we had. The tick didn't. Lost audio. We lost audio there for a second. We did have a volume EK, but the tick did not hang there at 45 degrees, but we did see that push through. Volume DE now, but nothing on that F. And of course, it's now moved through almost a point through that level. 79.75 is a point of resistance. You can see that on the left side of the 317 price chart, and above that 80.50. Minutes are conflicted now at that 11:10 replot. Just our base 5s now at the moment that we can look at, given those are the only ergs that are solid. 3 minutes are conflicted. Seeing a bit of a spike in that C bias, maybe coming toward 45 degrees, but we'll need to see 60 degrees. We are in a 9-point range, so we are still relegated to the 60-degree environment on the biases. Of course, in our scalps, because of the 4 components, we look for 45 degrees with that F. F being one of the components, or in addition to 4 components. And that 3 minute when conflicted, nice D bias has popped in. Basically holding that 79.75 resistance level.
conflicted tens. Watch that EKF was spiking in, it's backed off. Gained fives continue to be strong, angled up, but nothing to pair with them.
Overall, we did 10 o'clock did start near the that high of 84.50. In fact, I think we pressed to that shortly after 10 o'clock. But since about 10:20 or so, almost an hour, we've been in a range of 80.50 to 75.50. So trade a range in the last while. Conflicted 10 situation right at the moment. Nothing with those fives. We do have volume tick EF coming in downward, but again, nothing, even though it does and may move down. Just the rules as present with the conflicted tens keeps us out of those scalps, and that's just more of a protective measure in that transitionary period of the tens being conflicted. There certainly tends to be less direction, less momentum. When volume tick EF, looks like this certainly has moved down a bit. Did get an arrow. That's out of interest. Let's just see where that may lead. 77.75 would have been that entry if it moves through the 77.50 1-point target. Just watching with the conflicted tens, but certainly some real overlapping strong information in the scalp charts. Arguably, they were there that moved it down from even the 79.25 level to that 77.75. So arguably that strength has already been felt, but can move down even further. 77.25, left side of the 317 price chart, you can see is a point of resistance as well.
B bias is angled up. We have a 5-3 now. 3 ergs have turned up. We did move up from our recent low of 1.5.
Just lost the B bias. Still, we're looking for the first white arrow. We had 3 white arrows on the 144, the last one coming in, just as Greg was mentioning the potential 5-3. You need to see a little bit more of a even sideways or pullback situation in that 144, and just had a couple of candlesticks between the last arrow and even the first one. And we are in a situation of the B bias and the C bias now being angled down. 3 minute maybe turning at the top. You can see also that A bias has started to angle down again, and we may see ourselves move down if there's a concerted effort and turn in the 3s, maybe even ultimately a turn in the 5s then, even though our 10s have the appearance of turning here at the bottom of their range. Some of the other information, at the 11:20 mark, the loss of the turn in that one now red 10-minute ergodic, and the A bias angling down may suggest momentum coming in on the downward side of things. Let's see what happens here in the course of time. We may be consolidating for a while longer until we see maybe the 3s turn, or maybe even the 5s. And there is still the possibility to see these 10s turn up again as well. So conflicted 10s, we are looking just on the base 3 and the base 5. At the moment, we don't have the B or the C agreeable for the 5-3. You can see another potential scalp coming in downward here, 1DEF.
But for those conflicted 10s.
But for those conflicted 10s.
Just talking about the patterns that we would continue to watch for. And again, in the past, when we would have bigger ranges in the day, oftentimes those scalps do pay off. Just given the tighter range, decided to tighten up a bit on them.
Interesting EK upward with the F and the tick. The D volumes, let's see what happens here. Those 3s softened. Again, market is trying to decide in this zone whether it's going to press up further or fall further. If it does fall, it can fall to the 75.50 and turn around there with a turn in the 10 minutes potentially. So a lot of possibilities here. We need to see some more clarity here. See that 3-minute flashing red. One's volumes tick E. Still spiking here. We may see another attempted push up here.
C bias has come in nice.
Yeah, 45 degrees. Need to be 60 for the 5C. Again, with the conflicted 10s, our one volume tick is off the table. 3s went conflicted. Well, they've been conflicted for a period of time. D, E, K, F. Again, conflicted 10s. Looks like there is another attempt here to move below the 77.50.
A bias is coming in stronger downwards.
Yep, it is. 45 degrees almost.
Maybe a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Tapping on the 77.50, it's been a point of resistance down or a support going up. Bottom end of our consolidation zone. With the D, E, F coming in. Let's see if we can push through. If we push through, we can possibly move right back down to the bottom. Market has held this spot for the last 10 minutes, maybe even longer.
Gonna have to restart my ladder here, Greg. It looks like it's actually just frozen on me. I don't know how long it's been that way. So.
Go ahead. Conflicted 10s, conflicted 3s, conflicted 1s. 1s have gone green. Might be pushing up right now.
There we go. I'm back with the ladder.
Nice E spike. Nothing we can do. There's been no arrows, but no setups. Just waiting for the market to move out of the zone. It's found a comfort spot here.
Those 3s may turn upward here. The 5s are still there and actually strengthening slightly. Still holding the tick trend line, 3-minute trend line downward here. One minute until a replot on our 10s, 5s, and 3s. 1's down nicely. Volumes ticks up, F up. And 3-minute turning green. So let's watch for something here. The D spiking, still with the 10 minutes conflicted. Nothing on the scalp side of things, though we did have some nice change in information there with the ones, the D, the tick, the volumes, even the E, and of course a press through that tick trend line, 3-minute trend line by a point and a quarter or so, point and a half. Seconds until our 10s, 5s, 3s replot. This push may give us a change in our 10 minutes. Maybe come out of conflict. It did come out of conflict. So we can start to look at our scalps now again. Have a 1D volume. See if that tick can come in. Again, nothing with the 3s. 1 tick D. F not there. I said tick, 1 volume D, looking for that F to be a 4th component. Already had another bit of a push up through that 80 level. C bias coming in about 30 degrees or so. And lost that D. So did have a push there, but had nothing, well, had arrows certainly before we were still in conflict. Again, nothing there, 1 volume at the time, but that arrow on the 317 was not available for us. And you can see the 10-minute, as we say, did turn. Saw the push up underlying this just before the 10, or just before the bottom of the hour. The 10 minutes replotted with green angle. Let's see if that does continue. The A bias also came up from being angled downwards, so we may be coming into the 10-minute turn situation here. Took us probably a good 20 minutes to really come to that with the conflicted 10s, maybe even a little bit longer. C bias coming to 45 degrees. Again, we still need 60. We're at a 9-point range until we hit either 74.50 or 85.50. And in that sense, we are pretty much right in the middle of the day's range right now, Greg. 1 C D. E still off the board. E's coming back down now as I say that. Ones may be near the end of their cycle potentially as well. Volumes, ticks, really not showing much of a trend. Again with the ones, strong E, but nothing for us here. Spiking some angles on the D and the E, but just not holding. The F is there. 1 C may be close. The F backed off. At bottom 3-minute needs to turn up a little bit more for a 5-3 with the C bias agreeable. I'd like to see a pullback in relation to that, even a move back to the 80-25. Unless we see a scalp 1 D E C. Let's see if that F can come in with an arrow. We have ultimately moved up almost 3 points off of that bottom at 77.50 as it began to break through the 78.50 trend line. And one's flattening, going red. At 5-3, looks like it's there now, Greg, with the C bias agreeable.
Yeah, the bottom 3 is ticking in and out.
Ticking in and out.
I'd like to see it firmer.
You see an arrow on the top end of things here, though. That would be in a position where the 3s are 45.
Continues to hold this 80-50.
And there's a little bit of a resistance level, but above that we do have basically the high of the day. If we do see a white arrow on the top end of things here for a 5-3, if it drops down, we lose the C or the 3, then that is off the table. But see 81.25 has become a little bit of a point of resistance here. Was a little bit earlier in the morning as well on the way down. You can see that in the 5-minute, even to the left side of the 3-minute chart.
A bias coming in stronger. Nice to see.
Yeah, still looking for a white arrow. 5-3 in either the
144
or the 317. One's angling up again at the top of their range here. Still may see a pullback here, which would be ideal. And lost that 3-minute on that 11:36 replot. May come back in again. B bias flattened, C bias flattened, unless we see a scalp. We may see a scalp downward with a volume E tick F. Again, that 80-50, 80-25 is a point of resistance to that. DE F spiking out of that. Let's watch for that 3-minute on the top side to come back in to angle. Again, our 5s, as is our 3s, near the top of their range here potentially. Could begin to turn, cause a bigger downward movement, which may or may not in that case impact our 10s. See how strong that momentum would be if that does happen.
Be interesting if our D or E go into red.
Sorry, we have a volume DE, bit of an F. Let's watch for this to come into it.
80-25 is point of resistance the last couple of minutes. One's turning red. Looking for a red arrow. If that F bias stays. Tap through the 80-25 by a tick.
Volume DE, F. Ticks are assisting, ones are assisting.
Still deeper, still green bias in the DEF. Which is oftentimes we see that hold this up as they get stronger, those biases come down to the break even. That's when you get oftentimes a bigger push down on a shorter time frame.
Loosen the F angle.
These small charts can turn on a dime.
Our A bias is at 45 degrees, may even be starting to climb a little bit.
45 up.
Certainly our F is spiking upward here now. That 3-minute went back to green. We may see the 3-minute come back to 45 degrees, in which case we have the 5-3 again.
Even a 5, well, we're in 10-point range yet. I was going to say a 5A.
C is almost there for a 5C as well. And that push up, the 3-minute came perilously close to 45 degrees. Again, we have this spike and scalp downward, volume D, E, 1, F. Interesting, and that 3-minute went back to red, the C bias was lost. 1, C, D, volume, E, F. A lot of angles down, not necessarily red in the bias, but that EK spiking upward now, losing that F. Looks like it's going to press upward here, but we're not going to see that A bias come to 60 degrees, I think. Let's watch, though, potentially.
15, 17 seconds. Our 10s and 5s will plot new candlesticks.
Mm-hmm.
So that A could come in stronger.
You can also flatten on the 5s. So let's see what happens. 5 seconds.
A went flat.
Yeah, as did the B, as did the 5s, as did the bottom 10. So relegated to our scalps, 1 volume F, E, K, C, if there's a white arrow, a red arrow, sorry. Again, holding in this range after that press up out of that last consolidation range. It's put us into another one for almost 12 minutes now. The F angling up again, so nothing for us downward unless that changes. Looks like it may be, as it presses down, changing that angle. We need to watch for this. Reality is the market's going to move out of this little mini consolidation up or down, and may depend on the spiking of our charts. The F spiking upward now. D upward, volume starting to turn. 5s are still 45 degrees, though they have softened from what they were before, but nothing to match that with. And no scalp upward.
No scalp, though we did have the arrow on the 144. 81.25 becoming our shorter term point of resistance. Ones and volumes are angled down.
5s going flatter here now, so we may see our 5s and 3s begin to turn down for what may be a bigger move down. Let's watch for potential scalp downward. This is potentially a turnaround spot. This could also move up to 83, which is the 10 and the 5-minute trend line, and that could be a turnaround spot for that with the 5s and the 3s. Let's just watch. 1 C, D, E, E wavering. Of course, the F is not agreeable. One C, D, E. Still the challenge with our F as it spikes. Fives had gone a little bit flat, but have strengthened themselves in this push up to 81.25. So with our volumes turning, this looks like it may press up a little bit higher. Let's see if there is some manner of scalp that will accommodate that. Still can bounce off the 81.25, and that may still produce a scalp downward with a continued softening in the 5s and 3s. Let's see what happens. Really, at this point, it could move up or it could move down, depending on which way the momentum comes in. 1 C, E. Now the F has angled down again. E. See if there is a red arrow on the 144 or the 317. And the ones still angled down sharply, could be near the end of their range. See the 5-minute turning red. 1 C, D, E, F.
One of our favorite trades is when the market breaks out of consolidation. Oftentimes it has a nice jump or a pop or a drop. Oftentimes you get indications of the market going either way. There's a white arrow.
Just an EK coming in, D but no F. See, those 5s have now come back to 45 degrees when it just started to go red. So there may still be pressure upward here. See the 1 starting to turn now. EK, starting to see the D. If the F comes in, that would be a scalp upward. Again, we've been about 15 or 16 minutes in that 81.25 to 80 range.
Breaking it by a tick.
Smaller charts, 1's ED, there's the F beginning to spike but not holding. 1 DE. See again that 5 minutes starting to flatten. Couple of tick move up there. 1 D. E backed off. F still not agreeable. There's another level, as I did mention, the 83 level, 82.50, 82.75 in that range is a possible turnaround point for the 5 minutes. 1D, F starting to come in. We need another component. And the D backed off. EKF downward now. Another flashing to red on the 5 minute, now both 3 minutes. So DEF, C, CDEF, all biases. Interesting on that. I don't know that we've seen an all 4 bias pairing here for 4 components.
They're all in the green too.
And they're all in the green.
So they could easily hold. If they go into the red, may get that push down. Longer term, we see those 10 ergs turning up. Bottom one isn't as strong as the top one. We have been drifting up just past the midpoint of the day you talked about earlier.
Again, we're within a point of next horizontal and next trend line points of resistance. And those 5s just trying to turn red and then moving back to green. See that B bias moving into green now. Got 45 seconds for these 3s to replot. 1 volume. That's about it upward. E starting to show angle. 1 volume E. K. Let's see if that F can populate itself upward. 1 volume EK. F starting to spike slightly. May come in something very quickly, again close to that next point of bigger resistance, 10 seconds for 3 minutes. 1 volume D. Again, that F not there. 3s now red. No real significant change though in the 3 minute replotting.
Shorter term EKF down.
Almost the D. DEKF. There is a red arrow.
It's at the tick trend line. We were pushing higher. We can't push through higher. Sometimes the market gives up and goes the other way. Again, we are following the tick trend line up, so this could be just a shorter term pullback.
K backed off. We do have the E, the F, and the D
red arrow
downward.
on 144.
Yeah, it just came in a bit after loss of the 4th component. That C looks like it may be coming in. C, D, E, F, but again, C and D both weakening and still in the green. See another attempted turn in the 5 minutes here.
45 seconds. Another candlestick on the 10 and 5 minute charts. See how that affects the ergodics. Of course, ergodics still move, but when you have another candlestick, it can affect those moving averages even more. Tapping this tick trend line.
We have
Support level.
DEF, volume starting to turn.
Threes are turning.
Ticks starting to turn, threes, as you say.
3 minute trend line. Point and a half off the top. 2 seconds. Oh, our 10s came in stronger. And both 5 ergs are red.
Interesting.
That bottom 10 erg was weakening very strong.
You have the CDEF. Interesting, this particular 4 components. As I say, not seen that before, not in my recollection anyway. 3s are in now. 3D looks like it's in at 60 degrees.
Point of resistance 80.25, which even tapped down 80 a few minutes ago.
We did just previously on the 144 have a red arrow, which was 3rd red arrow in that drop sequence. So we'd like to see a pullback, at least given we're also on this 80.25, 80 level as well. If we do see a scalp, we can look for the scalp and maybe even do an internal transition to a base 3. That's off the table with the 3 minutes, plotting flat now on the bottom one. So again, we're relegated to scalps downward, nothing with the 10s upward. About 15, 16 minutes in this upper range here.
Watch this possible EK upwards starting to emerge. You see the green L ticking too. It's still premature. Could come in quickly though. I see the same thing happening on a weaker green J. It just backed off.
CVF angling up. EKF potentially, as you say. Still mired in this range. We did push up to 82, but for all intent and purpose, we're still 80 to 81.25. EK, the F has lost that angle for the moment. E volumes, a little bit of a push up here. Perhaps on the volume turn, even the ticks beginning to turn. L attack, E. F, still in this 81.25 range here. Three-minute going green. One's volumes ticks, really just no trending visual at all. So F angle down, E angle down, D angle down, C angle down, we got our 1s. So if there's a red arrow, that F continues to hold at angle down, 1, C, D, E, F, even that L attacks separation.
Coming down within a couple of ticks of the bottom of our range.
30 seconds for our 5s to replot here. Again, looking for a red arrow on a scalp.
If it breaks through this level, we can drop a point quickly.
F still spiking. 80, 25. We know our 80 is that little bit of a resistance as well. 1 CEF tick. There's been a strong resistance at 80.25 here since about 11:30, 31, 32. So we've been 20 to 25 minutes in this range here. Losing some of the D. 5s plotted in a bit nicer. In fact, it looks like the bottom one's almost 60 degrees, top one is 45, nothing to pair or match that with. Into our last almost 4 minutes. 1 C, E, F, close as well. E spiking down. One C, D, E, tick even. The F is flat though. 30 seconds for 3s to plot themselves again. EK almost looks like it's coming in upward here. Let's see if that's a prelude to a push up. See the F beginning to rise, the E backed off. Volumes did turn. In 3 minutes, still conflicted. C bias still maybe 45 degrees, so can't match that with the 5s. E angle downward. Still in our range here. Still in our consolidation. 1's may angle downward again. Certainly see the E and the D and the C still, at this point, holding some downward angle. Almost half an hour here, Greg, in this 1 1/4 point range, essentially. And maybe since about 11 o'clock, maybe 130,000 contracts traded, pretty light in that span of time. Into our last 2 minutes.
Conflicted 1's volumes. Ticks are turning up. 10 ergs are turning up very nicely now. A bias is flat. Might be able to consider a setup 10 in a few minutes. Get a bigger push up. See our 1s are at the bottom. Starting to turn green. Into our last minute. See what happens at noon. That A bias. We're just wrapping up our session here. Of course, at noon, if we do get into any trades here, we'll be out of our trades at 12 o'clock.
See the ones, as you say, angling up a bit here. Nothing really to match that with. Ticks, yes. F. So close to a 1 tick F. Let's see if anything else comes in. Nothing really coming in. The D may be coming in. 1 tick DF. The F backed off, I think, just before that white arrow on the 144. That all was a little bit quick, and we hit our 12 o'clock
And we're at
anyway
noon.
here. Yeah.
A bias continues to be flat. Certainly looks like we're very close to a scalp coming up and maybe taking a push to that 82. However, morning.
In terms of totals on the day, setup 10, we had 2 1-point trades for 2 points in total. 3C, we were down half a point. Scalps, we were cumulative up 3 ticks. 10B, we had that one stopped out at 2 points down. 5-3 at half a point gain for 1.25 down on that. And non-setup 10, so setup 10 plus 2, non-setup 10 minus 1.25, so a 3 tick gain on a very tight day. So anything else to add there, Greg?
Well, just want to thank everyone for being here today. If you are on this afternoon, again, watch for nice angles, 45-degree angles on the ergs. Still within a 10-point range, 60-degree angle on the biases. When we break out of this consolidation, the market will typically move. It's done this time and time again. And oftentimes it will push up to the top, can't get through, it'll drop to the bottom. Or the same, make a surge to the bottom, even down a few ticks, and push right back up. So just be aware of some of the nuances of the market. Again, thanks for being here. Darren, for your great commentary. Everyone have a great rest of your day. See you back tomorrow morning. Thanks. Bye.